Invocation to the Supreme God, to the Great Divine Father and the Great Divine Mother, thank you for your priceless blessings, for your divine light, divine love, divine power, divine healing, guidance, mercy, help, and protection. Thank you. To my great spiritual teacher, to all the great spiritual teachers, to all the great gods and goddesses, to all the great great ones, especially also to Neem Karoli Baba and all his great disciples, we very humbly thank you for your great blessings. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you, we thank you, we thank you in full. Thank you. All right. So we'll open the book. And where were we? One second. We just need to figure out where we were. 126. All right. Yes, got it. Let's start. All right, let's continue. Babaji and some devotees spent the night in a dharmasala on the way to Badrinath. You know, the best part about having a study like this is all the stories are disconnected. Like there is no common. There are groupings, but they're individual stories, which means you can start anywhere and can still enjoy as much as you want, right? Let's continue. Maharaji and some devotees spent the night in a dharmshala on the way to Badrinath. Maharaji sent the entire group out of the room and forbade them to enter during the night. They had seen a big cobra on Maharaji's bed. In the morning, Maharaji came out with a cobra and shooed it away. Sometime later in Kenchi, Maharaji was told that a cobra was in the ashram. He made a hue and cry, "Cobra is here, cobra is here." A devotee remarked to him, "What is this? So much concern for a cobra now? What happened when you slept the whole night with a cobra? Now you're making such a commotion. You wicked person, go away." It's really hard to understand an enlightened person. I think what is coming out of this. Really hard to understand a person who's enlightened. Maharajji was in Banaras with the police superintendent, a devotee. They were going over to a sadhu camp on the island in the middle of the Ganga, and the superintendent said, "We'll take a boat in Banaras, the Ganga, over a mile across." Right? Maharajji countered, "No, we'll go in the water." मतलब बेसिकली बोट नहीं लेंगे, पानी में जाएंगे. Superintendent couldn't swim and protested, "Maharaj, it's over our heads." Maharaj replied, "Just put your hand on my shoulder." So they waded into the river, and the next thing the superintendent knew, they were on the island. They returned the same way. Wow. Wow. See, this is also another way by which a great teacher will teach you that miracles are possible without actually telling you anything. Which means what is going to happen is eventually your faith is restored in a power which is higher than you. They don't actively show miracles, but they show miracles in this manner. At our house, after the third or fourth day following Maharajji's visit, my wife heard, "Keep some water for me in the night," coming from near the picture of Maharajji. Wow! One night she forgot, but later she awoke very thirsty and then remembered to put some water by the picture. In the morning, the glass which she had covered was nearly empty. Aha, see? I want to read this again. At our house, after the third or fourth day following Maharajji's visit, my wife heard, keep some water for me in the night, coming from nearby the picture of Maharajji. One night she forgot, but later she awoke very thirsty and remembered to put some water by the picture. In the morning, the glass which she had covered was nearly empty. Oh, I wonder. There was a party going to Vasudhara near Badrinath, where the Ganga starts. But one Ma was sick, so the group wouldn't take her. As the party left to go, the Ma was bewailing her face and Maharajji came and said, "You wanna see Vasudhara?" He touched her hand and said, "Now walk out on the porch." She did so, and what she saw was Vasudhara. She was in ecstasy. It turned out later that the party couldn't reach Vasudhara because of a roadblock. When they returned, she told them that she had been there, but of course they didn't believe her. She described in detail, and an old guide who had been there before corroborated her description. I wonder if this is astral travel that he made her do, or like a physical transportation, like a teleportation. Wow. I don't know. Very hard to say from what this is actually. Word read Maharaj from the Pujari, priest in Kanpur, that he that the new murti, not yet consecrated, had been broken. Maharaj and some of us immediately set out for Kanpur, driving all night. I felt that by this intensity, Maharaj was teaching the discipline of sticking to something. There was to be no sleep until Ram's work was done. I tried to slow Maharaj down, however, by quoting the proverb, "Don't travel at night and don't be idle at noon." Maharaj said the same principle doesn't apply in every situation. When we arrived, we found that the murti was no longer broken. Then Maharaj told the story of the saint Ramakrishna, in which the Durga, an aspect of the Divine Mother, murti had been broken. And Ramakrishna did puja and sang to it, and soon it was all fixed. By the way, there's a book that we read last time. It was, okay, one second. No, the audio is actually low. True. Very, very true. Yeah. I don't know why the mic keeps shifting the audio on its own. Anyway, um, the book that we read was called, uh, what was the book that we read of Ramakrishna? Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's book. Mm, it was, I think it was called Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So, by M. Mahendranath. So he also gave the same example that praying to God and singing to it, soon it was all fixed. A man was trying unsuccessfully to dig a well on his property and finally sent his son to Maharajji for help. Maharajji came to the farm, urinated, and left, saying, "Tell your father to try again." Indeed, a well was found which is still gushing today. How is it possible, man? How is it possible? How is it possible? I have no idea. At a certain Mela, a flood destroyed a bridge which kept collapsing every time they tried to rebuild it. The organizer of the Mela came to Maharajji for help, and Maharajji said he would bless the bridge, but the man insisted that Maharajji come to the side of the bridge itself. Maharajji stood there for a while, and the flood waters began to recede. Soon the bridge was reconstructed, and the Mela turned out to be one of the most peaceful ever. Wow, I wonder what Mela is that. I hope it's not the Kumbh Mela, right? Just a probably normal Mela, I think. Like, by the way, just for your I think it is very important to know that a person who is in connection with their soul has actually a Control over the elements. While the person has control over the elements, you can change things the way you want to change them. It is very, very possible to change things the way you want to change when you have control over the elements. And this is no joke. It's very, very serious. Like you can make it rain. You can, I don't know, you can cause strong winds or stop the winds. You can cause tornadoes. See, when I'm saying this, I don't mean it in a way that is like, oh, by the way, I can do it. No, not like that at all. Any person who's capable of doing it um, has stronger contact with the elemental forces. Not the elemental that we study in prana psychotherapy, but like the four elements, right? So, but those are usually strongly influenced by the power of soul. So, or the higher soul, especially. So, if you are in touch with that, you the higher soul can actually do things which are interesting actually. Anyways, so like the water began to recede, flood water, probably work of an elemental of the water, which the great teacher with his willpower maybe given instruction, I think. People often gave Maharaji blankets. One time when he was through with a blanket, it suddenly became much smaller, and he said, "Why are you giving me these blankets that are too small?" One time when he was through with the blanket, it suddenly became much smaller. And he said, "Why are you giving me these blankets that are too small?" Okay, no idea what the story means. Maharaji and a devotee had settled in for a journey in the first class compartment of a train. The devotee felt it would be safer if Maharaji held the tickets until the conductor came. So he gave them to Maharaji. Maharaji looked at them and said, "What is this for?" And he threw them out of the window of the moving train. Oh God. Oh, that's funny. He threw the tickets out of the window of the moving train. The devotee was shocked but said nothing. As Maharaji continued his conversation, the devotee was worrying about the tickets and the conductor. Finally, the conductor knocked the door and asked to see the tickets. The devotee hesitated a moment and then told Maharaji that the conductor wanted to see the tickets. Maharaji reached out towards the window and then handed the tickets to the devotee. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! That is awesome. He reached out to the window, then handed the tickets to the devotee. He laughed and said, "Is that what you were worried about?" Oh my God! Oh my God! That is fancy. Imagine somebody in front of you pulling a stunt like that. It's just amazing to think about. It's fancy. Like you throw stuff out from, say, 10th floor of a building, and then again you just put the hand out of the balcony. Oh, by the way, this is what you were looking for. Crazy. It's amazing. In 1958, I was acting as the leader of the landless people movement. I was arrested and charged with four counts. First, inciting a riot. Second, trespassing. Third, attempted murder. And fourth, obstructing a government servant from discharging his duties. I was assured by Maharaji not to worry, that it would turn out all right. But in 1964, I was convicted and sentenced to 4 years imprisonment. I immediately appealed the decision. I was not worried, but my relatives were quite upset and insisted I again go to Maharaji about the case. Maharaji assured me once more that all would be turn out okay, and added that when a particular judge whom he named was in office, then the decision would be reversed. The name given was not that of the present judge. The present judge was, in fact, soon transferred, but the replacement was also not the one Maharaji foretold. The case was being argued and was to be completed by the end of the particular day. I thought to myself, how could this be? It was a cold, drizzly day, and the sun had set, and there were still several hours of arguing left. So the judge postponed the case until the next day. On that day, the very important paper was inexplicably missing without a trace, so the case could not be finished. The judge ordered a further postponement until the paper be reconstructed, and the reconstruction took 3 years. By the time, now 1968, the judge whom Maharajji had named had been put in the office, the case was dropped under his decision. Wow, I mean, he could literally see almost 68, 58, 10 years in the future, exactly knowing the name of the person also. Wow, that's remarkable. It's like seeing a person's future through the records or Akashic records. By the way, Akashic records are not just for the past, you know that, right? Akashic records are for the future also. The future lives are also seen with Akashic records. There are abilities of people who can actually, for example, a great clairvoyant like Bishop Leadbeater, Annie Besant, Blavatsky, they were great clairvoyants. They were able to refer to Akashic records of not just people but also the whole planet. They could see the life of the planet right now, how it was before, and then the previous, like how was in the moon chain, then the previous chains, and they went all the way back to the first chain of the entire system, our scheme, right? Uh, so they were given special abilities, adding or enhancing the powers that they already had of clairvoyant reading of the Akashic records by their great teacher, by the way. So you can also, by the way, see the future. That is how Leadbeater and Annie Besant have described what is called as how will the sixth and the seventh sub races will look like. This is in the book called The Solar System by Arthur Powell. I would highly recommend you to read that book specifically. It's a brilliant book, and you will gain much insight out of a book like that. Um, yeah, something like that. All right, let's go forward. I was visiting a saint in the south of India who was known for manifesting many things. As I was getting ready to leave, he said to me, do you want something, Ramdas? No, Babaji, I don't want anything. Here, he said, and held out his hand palm upwards and started to move it in a slow circular motion. I was still sitting at his feet so that my eyes were close to his hand, and I watched like a hawk for the least trickery, careful not to blink. But much to my amazement, there appeared to be a bluish light on his hand, which turned into a medallion. The whole business was confusing to me. Why did he do this? I later heard that Maharajji said of such miracles, there are those siddhis powers, but they shouldn't be used much. They reduce spirit to magic. Spirit matlab the divine spark in this case. They reduce the spirit to magic. And he said of such siddhis or such saints, let them play. Some saints of the south are very much after miracles. Oh wow, that's interesting. I still don't know why the medallion was given. By the way, no idea. But basically, he produced probably a miracle in some way or the other. And yeah, interesting. Once in Vrindavan, before Guru Purnima Day, a day honoring the Guru, Maharajji was feeding us by hand. One by one, he would feed us each a peda. I tried to feed him one too. Of course, he didn't eat sugar, but I was insisting with the thought that this was also prasad. You must eat it, please eat it. So he pretended to eat it. But Naima caught him. You didn't eat it, Maharajji. He looked guilty, as if to say, oh, you caught me. There it was in his hand, he'd palmed it. That precipitated wonderful play as he went into his whole magician act. Which hand is it in? Ah, you're wrong. It's in this hand. I don't think he was even using his powers for this game. He really was palming it, hiding it in his blanket, and using sleight of hand. all tricks that any magician can do. But he was saying, see, I'm like Sai Baba. I can make it appear. I can make it disappear. I can do anything. Magic. It's magic. Funny. It's this beautiful childish side of his, right? It's amazing. We were in a car with Maharaj in Bombay. He was directing us to drive through small streets until finally we came to a house. A ma ran out and touched Maharajji's feet. It so happened that one of my colleagues had been urging me to ask Maharajji about Satya Sai Baba miracles, and Maharajji had been ignoring the question. Satya Sai Baba. By the way, Satya Sai Baba was in the city of Bangalore up until 2011, I think. By the way, I think I was also around at the same time in Bangalore. I never knew about him. Anyways, so I think he's been around living since like 50s or even earlier than that. Far 40s maybe, I don't know. So he's a pretty old person by the time he left. So there are many hospitals open, charity hospitals in under his name, by the way, now. So this Sai Baba is also one of those that he was talking about, most likely. All right. We were in a car with Maharajji in Bombay. He was directing us to drive through small streets until finally we came to a house. A ma ran out and touched Maharajji's feet. It so happened that one of my colleagues had been urging me to ask Maharajji about the Satya Sai Baba miracles, and Maharajji had been ignoring the question. Now, sometime later in this house, Maharajji said, Mother, they think manifesting things is so great. Give us some murtis. And in her hand, suddenly there was three little murtis of Krishna. Siddhima wrapped two of them in her sari, and when she got home, she discovered three of them there. Wow, really? That's awesome. About the miracle Babas, Maharajji would say, what is this? This is all foolishness. He could do miracles, but the greatest miracle was that he could turn one's heart and mind towards God as he did for me. By the way, this is exactly what Master Chokoksoi says. Our spiritual teacher, Master Chokoksoi, he says that what is authentic power? In one of the videos that we see of our great teacher, he says that authentic power is not really about, you can, with your spiritual power, push a wall down and the wall will fall and things like that. That is, he says it's okay, but it's not very powerful eventually. Like you'll be like, wow, 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 but then there's no benefit out of it. Master Church says that the authentic power or the real power is of transformation. He's like, to put a seed so deep into the person that it really grows into a big tree. The person gets transformed, which means you have to be that virtuous. It means that you have to be that strongly virtuous that when you speak something, when you implant something, it goes deep inside the person's system. And the person tends to then transform because your words were really powerful and your energy like rubbed against the person. So in a poetical sense, but you see understand, right? Says keep the like so many people around Master Chokoksoi actually did transform. They wanted to become better versions of themselves. They wanted to help the world. They wanted to be more kind, more loving, more honest, and he was able to transform so many people. That is the power of a great, great teacher. I mean, just to take an example, Lord Buddha, the degree of purity he had was absolutely impeccable. I think if I remember correctly, there would be like thousand people sitting and listening to him. Many of them would become our hearts by the end of the talk, of the discourse. Such was his power. Then I wonder what were we doing when he was giving the talks. If we were at that time around that place, what were we doing? I'm sure he would have called us. We were like, Apan nahi aa rahe. We're not coming. And then, now we are here trying to practice. Otherwise, if we would have been smarter, we would have gone there, we would have been arhats by now. Just kidding. Anyways, do you understand my point, right? Jokes aside, the point still is that the greater the teacher, the more powerful the expression of the virtue, and more powerful is the transformation that comes along, with something like that. So whenever you say take part in the festival of Vaisak, you basically come and touch directly with the energy of the Lord Buddha. So the more and more you come and closely in touch with him, his energy, you will eventually start to mold yourself to a certain degree like his, shall we say, um, the way he is a server. You also will start to become a server because the more and more you come in touch with him, you would start to become like him also. This is good. See, this is exactly what happens in the animal kingdom. Only those animals are promoted to human beings who, or basically who individualize, who are in touch with human beings for a very, very long time, right? Um, the numerous ones which are called, I think now as cats, dogs, horse, um, elephant. I don't know if monkeys any of them. I'm not sure if monkey uses them at all. But cat, dog, elephant, and horse are known for of four different rays. Ray 1, Ray 2, Ray 3, and Ray 6 are known. Other rays are not really known right now. So this is important to know. Which also, by the way, takes us to next understanding that you will evolve to the next level of your evolution after um, you are in closer association with, say, the greater teachers. So if you do Sharanagati a lot, for example, to Masachava and other higher beings like Mahagur Jamailing, so your association with them will enhance very quite a lot actually, which will then lead to your also treading quicker on the path because of your contact with them. Same happens in the Vesak because you come in touch with the great Lord Buddha. You understand, right? The way your touch with the greater hierarchy brings you closer to them, actually, right? Something like that. Let's go forward. I have no powers. I don't know anything. Maharaji was actually the biggest saint. He had done all the yogic austerities. There are saints in India, very aged ones, who almost never give darshan to people, except for the few to whom they are kind. These saints cannot be seen. Sometimes they take the shape of a tiger or a monkey or a beggar. You can only have a darshan if they want to give it to you, not otherwise. The true devotees of God never wear saffron, carry malas, which are called the prayer beads, or put on a sandalwood. You can't know them unless they want it, and then you can only know them as much as they allow. Of course, no? Of course, makes sense. See, this is important. The true devotees of God never wear saffron. Wow. You can't know them unless they want it. Ma, what am I to do? There is no I that can follow me. No one knows me. No one understands me. What am I to do? Said 4 days before he left his body. There was still another group of devotees, many of them among the longest term associates, who didn't conjecture about Maharaj's identity at all. You can't try to understand Maharajji. You can only put him on as you would put on a pair of shoes or a piece of clothing and feel him. That's interesting. We are mind centric. They've transcended the mind, so it's really hard to say what they will do. I asked a devotee, wasn't your wife surprised when you didn't stop and talk to her? No, never. When we are with Maharaj, we never think rationally about things. She just knew I was with Maharajji. Aha, interesting. Aha, interesting. It is extremely difficult to catch hold of him. I knew nothing about such things. I only know that he is my Baba. Baba, by the way, is a word in India which is a representative of like a grandfather or like elder. Just give me a second. Sorry, yeah, we're back. Although miracles were commonplace around Maharajji, they were rarely discussed during his lifetime. Their devotees knew in no uncertain terms that he did not like these things talked about. When various devotees would sit around and discuss his miracles, Maharajji would call them over and berate them and say, "You're all talking lies." Maharajji said that God loves everything and he, Maharajji, does nothing. And if people wrote about him, millions of people would come to bother him, drawn only by rumors of miracles. Wow. In 1963, a man collected stories about Maharajji. Maharajji said, "You want to bring disgrace? Burn them." He burnt them. Wow, why? Another devotee wrote an article and Maharajji tore up the manuscript. I wonder what is those articles. Someone asked Maharajji if he'd allow some pictures to be taken. Maharajji said no and expressed his disapproval. The man pressed Maharajji until finally he ceased to resist. The man snapped 3 or 4 photographs. When the roll of the film was developed, these 3 or 4 frames were completely blank. If you happen to see him perform some miracle such as producing puris, he would tell you not to tell anyone. I tell you, it will be bad for you. Don't tell anyone. Wow, really? Okay, maybe that's a way to school people. One time in car, one time the car in which Maharaji was riding ran out of gas in the place where there was none to be had nearby. Maharaji instructed the driver to put water in the tank and continue. Then he firmly warned the driver never to tell of this incident for as long as Maharaji was alive. Maharaji said that if the man told, he would contact leprosy. It was some 3 years after Maharaji left his body that the man first told the story. Wow, by the way, I'm sure the car ran, huh? That's interesting. On water, that's so cool. See, it's just a joke that Maharaji probably knew the technology of splitting the water into hydrogen and oxygen and make and make the car run. But I think, see, the thing is, you have to understand how these things actually work. Um, Once you have contact with the divine spark, which means divine spark is actually running through your etheric body also now. The energy of the divine spark, the monadic energy is running through your etheric energy. You will have the ability to alchemize things, transmute things. You can change one thing to another. Sai Baba Diaz the Potter, exactly. So you will have the ability to alchemize things. In the previous book that we read with Living with the Himalayan Masters, there was a saint who would touch the hand on the pebbles and they would all become nuts and um, pistachios and all the good stuff, right? The rich nutrient stuff. And he would eat them. He's like, this is how I eat my food, by the way. So like Maharaj, he has abilities, of course, far beyond comprehension, but he can alchemize matter. He can transform from one matter to another. This is a very, very good thing to know, by the way. So it happens with the energy of the divine spark. You should not talk about your wealth, wife, or sadhana, or they will go away. You should not talk about your wealth, wife, or sadhana, or they will go away. Maharajji's strategy obviously worked, for he was known to those he chose to be known to, yet unknown to the population at large. As an example, the Illustrated Weekly of India did an entire issue concerning Indian saints, past and present. Hundreds were listed, yet in the entire magazine he was not even mentioned. Perhaps that was the greatest sign of his power. When the Westerners started to come to Maharaji, he changed. He began to allow photographs to be taken and even gave his blessings for a book, Be Here Now, which allowed millions of seekers in the Western world to hear of Maharaji and his powers. Why he changed is not known. Perhaps he was preparing his legacy. Aha, see? Interesting. Apparently, Maharaji did not transmit to his devotees any of the powers that he manifested. Perhaps he felt similar to Shri Sai Baba, who said, I don't give them powers because I don't want them to lose their way. Rather than any siddhis or yogic powers, Maharaj gave us more basic things: faith, loving hearts, and an acceptance of the reality of the divine. At the same time, he recognized that some of these devotees had desire for such powers, and he enjoyed playing with those people. Wow. In 1967, Maharaj asked me, "You want to fly?" I had a pilot's license at the time, and though I knew that this wasn't what he meant, I said somewhat facetiously, "I can already fly, Maharaji." Maharaji ignored my response and said, "You want to fly, you'll fly." It was not until 1972, over 4 years later, while working with a mantra under the direction of a Swami, that I experienced astral flying. Ramdas. Uh-huh. Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm sure some of you have experienced astral traveling, right? But the fun is when you can do astral traveling consciously, which means for this also you have, my understanding is, my very little understanding is, you have to be at least a soul realized person, so you can leave the body at will, basically, right? You know, the body is a vehicle, you can leave the body at will. And also, um, maybe closer to being an arhat, or at least an arhat, I think is a conditional requirement. I think so, for this kind of for this kind of a power to be expressed. Um, and it becomes more of a duty after that, because then you take care of projects or work in this world, and then the next world, and then the next world, and then the next world. It's not, I mean, it's fun in the beginning, maybe, when you're a first entry consciously, but after that, it's not fun because of this work. In fact, I was telling my wife the other day, Late Peter's very, very first experience of leaving the body was not pleasant at all, actually. It was very, very horrific. Some of you may have read the book called The Monad, right? By Bishop Leadbeater. He mentions in that book that my first astral travel experience, or astral flying experience, was he was actually meditating, I think at the bank, near a hut near the bank of one of the lake, I think lake or lake, near Adyar, the Theosophical Society, right? He was meditating over there, and he felt like somebody is pulling him out of the crown, like him, matlab him, the soul, out, consciousness out of the crown. And then he found himself floating above his head, of course, and then he saw the whole room. It looked like the room is just a little bit more brighter, but still all the physical attributes appeared to be like that. Makes sense. He felt like he was being drifted. Like, like you, if there is a, like this little feather, and if you, the feather goes forward, right? He felt like he was being drifted to a small rock which was inside the lake, but a little bit farther from the shore, right? A little bit inside the lake. So he felt he was being drifted towards that rock, and he went over there, and he, was standing or maybe waiting over there, and he described what he was feeling and all of that. But more importantly, he saw suddenly that from the other end of the lake, which is kind of like a very, very big lake, extremely large number of horrific, extremely horrifying beings were coming straight at him. The biggest elementals known, the most horrific beings of the astral world, everyone was charging straight at him. And as they were coming closer, they were becoming more and more horrific, more and more real, and uh, far more uglier, like something that you will probably repel, run away from, most likely. Monsters of all kind, basically. As they came closer and closer, he literally had to summon up every courage that he had to not let any energy of fear express, to not let any energy of fear express, and to only realize the truth that there is no power in them. In the astral world, they can't do any damage. Absolutely, no damages can be done in the astral world. Okay, so as they arrived, they just passed through him, and He passed the test. The test was, would you shake in the astral world if you're interfaced with difficult situations? And he did not shake at all. But he said that most people, or he said some people cannot really um, pass a test like this. It's very hard for them to pass because the fear is still there. And he says that this kind of fear can only be overcome with love for all beings, compassion, right? The Buddhic love. Anyway, I think so. I'm saying that not everybody's experience is as pleasant as a joyful, enjoyment. Some people's experiences are like this, who are like literal. My assumption is was advanced along the path for the work that he had to do. That's probably why I think. One of the first things he said to me in 1967 was, "You know, Gandhi, I know of him, Maharajji. You should be like him." Just by saying that, he started in me a train of righteous power fantasies that went on for years. Only recently have I come to see Gandhi in terms of compassion rather than power. Maharajji's statement made me do much work on myself. To add a bit more fuel to the fire of these attachments of mine, one day Maharajji asked, "Did you have tea at Nixon's house?" I was puzzled, for the question was without context. But then I remembered that the Englishman who had settled in Almora many years before, who was known as Krishna Prem, was considered by many Indians to be a saint and originally been named Nixon. I asked Maharaji if it was his name to whom he referred. No, the one with the big white house in America, the one with the house bigger than Muktananda's, the White House. There was no mistaking it now. He meant the president. No, I never did. But then thinking maybe there was a confusion of generations, I added helpfully, "But my father has. Weren't you in Mr. Nixon's house when he gave you the tea and was very nice to you?" "No." "Oh, nothing more." "Oh, nothing more. Just another little suggestion that perhaps I was to play in the halls of worldly power." And another day he spoke again about the presidency. This time he said, "You know, Lincoln was a very good president." "Yes, yes. He was a good president because he knew Christ was the real president. He was only acting president." "Oh, yes. He was very good. He helped the poor and the suffering. He never forgot Christ." "Ah." Then he asked, "Do you know Lincoln?" There was an embarrassed silence, for everyone present knew of that impossibility. Because Lincoln was like way back, right? Then Dada told Maharajji that I couldn't have, and Lincoln died in 1865. It was explained as if to a child, but all of us knew that Maharajji never said these things idly. Which probably, I think what he was indicating, probably, I'm just probabilizing, was he was probably trying to remind some of them of the past life memory, which means some of them, at least, or the person who they were talking to, Ramdas maybe, was linked to the previous president or was a part of maybe his um, presidency at that point of time, which probably is a reincarnation of his time. He was probably trying to help him. This is my guess. Huh? I don't really know why he's saying this though. The head of the state of police of Uttar Pradesh, the largest state in India, had come for darshan and was sitting at Maharajji's feet and rubbing his legs with obvious devotion. I was called to join them, and Maharaj introduced him to me and asked him whether the police in America were like the police in India. As I looked at this superintendent of state police rubbing Maharajji's legs, I could only laugh at the comparison. I said that the police in America had great power and often forgot they were the servants of the people. And I added that it would be unlikely for the head of any state police to kneel and rub the feet of a holy man. Maharaj then introduced me to the policeman, saying, "This is Ramdas. He is going to bring the police of America to God." Wow. I had to laugh. Now he is implying future powers even greater than my fantasies. It was also around this time that Maharaj started calling me Samarth Guru Ramdas. Samarth means capable. Capable Guru Ramdas. In the past, he had called me by one name or another. Example, Isha, Jesus, Kabir, each for a few weeks. Isha, by the way, means goddess. Okay. Each time a new name appeared, albeit briefly, I would make inquiries as to the nature of the person who had become my namesake and would try on it for size. Jesus, I already knew about. Kabir was a great saint, a very poor weaver who preached the unity of all religions as was and was legendary for his outspoken beliefs in God. His poetry was already much revered in my heart. It was it At first it seemed that Samarth Guru Ram Das must refer to the Sikh Guru Ram Das. By the way, Ram Das was the fourth Guru out of the 10 in the Sikh lineage. Very, very powerful, great teacher, by the way. But then I found a book that described a Samarth Guru Ram Das who was Guru to the King Shivaji in the 1600s and had constructed many Hanuman temples. The name Samarth means all powerful, and there are many stories of his miraculous powers. He lived in a mud hut next to the king's palace. The king was highly regarded for his concern for all subjects and for his generous feeding of the poor. But apparently, now and then his ego got the best of him. When this happened, the guru would do things like splitting a rock in which there were many tiny bugs and asking the king who was feeding the bugs. The realization of the triviality of his own efforts would again humble the king. I liked his name, and while I wanted all the powers Maharajji seemed to be alluding to, I knew that if he gave me those powers, I would indeed get lost in them now and then. However, Maharajji would set me up for an experience that, by allowing me to help him, showed me that the true powers poured forth when one realized I can do nothing, God does everything. This is the realization, no? On one occasion, Maharaj said to me, Haridas is in America. You keep him there for 5 years. I knew that Haridas had only a 3 month visa and that to get a permanent visa, that is to become a registered alien in the United States, is no easy matter. So I said to Maharajji, I can't do that. I have no political power in the United States. But Maharajji would not hear my reply. He just repeated, You keep Haridas in America for 5 years. I kept Bhagwan Das here for 7 years. The implications of this made me laugh. Here was Maharajji who had all kinds of powers making this absurd comparison. Now, basically, it's just Bhagwan Das, by the way, is somebody who's probably a foreigner staying in India right now. And Haridas, I think, is somebody who's not who's an Indian probably, but Maharaji says ki you keep him in America for 5 years. So Maharaji says I kept Bhagwan Das here in India for 7 years. The implication of this made me laugh. Here was Maharaji who had all kinds of powers, making this absurd comparison. My power within the United States government was absolutely zero. So again, I protested, but he was equally adamant. So I said that I would certainly work on it. Few days prior to that conversation, a Westerner from Los Angeles, whom I'd never met before, came to Nainital to see me. I explained to him that my guru was nearby and took him to see Maharajji, who gave him the name Badrinath Das. The fellow was very taken with Maharajji and genuinely appreciative that I had arranged this meeting. On his last day in Nainital, which was the day after the Haridas conversation with Maharajji, Badrinath Das thanked me again and asked me if there was anything he could do for me in the States. I asked him, for instance, what? And he told me that he was a successful lawyer in the Los Angeles. At the moment, I could not think of any friends who were in trouble, but I thanked him for the offer. Then, as an afterthought, I said, I have a family full of lawyers, but the only legal thing I need now is to get Haridas Baba a long term visa in America. And I explained to him Maharajji's orders. Badrinath Das said, Gee, it's funny you should need that. My brother in law happens to be the director of the Western US Office of Immigration. And we should be able to arrange it with one letter. And so that's amazing. It was done then. When Haridas came to the immigration department for an interview, he folded his folded his folder had a special VIP sticker on it, and his alien visa was granted with no difficulty. Now here's important, okay? It was said that by somebody who I respect a lot in the pranic healing school, it was said that if the guru wants something done, he will make sure it's done. I'll again say, see, if the guru wants something to be done for his work or whosoever's work, it shall be done. It means he will make sure that the work gets done. So you don't have to worry uh, because if you're on the side of the teacher and he would like, for example, many times have you wondered how do trainers actually get students? Not they organize the classes, they do Sharanagati, and of course they do all their own work also. They call people and then they put flyers and everything else. But somehow, with the blessing of the teacher, many instructors are actually able to get students quite easily. Many, not all, but many. This is actually very interesting. Like if the teacher would like you to teach more classes because a lot of work has to happen through you, you will get that. Um, yes, Radhaji.
आत्मा नमस्ते। थैंक यू। आप ये जो बात बोल रहे हो इस पे पीयूष भैया ना यहाँ पर जो है पीयूष भैया इंदौर निपानिया।
Oh, yeah.
तो पूर्णम फाउंडेशन, तो उनके साथ में हमने मिलके यहाँ पे महू कैंट में वी हैव डन लाइक लॉट्स ऑफ वर्क, मतलब फ्री हीलिंग कैंप लगाए, मतलब एवरी फ्राइडे फ्रॉम मॉर्निंग टू इवनिंग लाइक 9 to 6। और उसके अलावा भी बहुत हीलिंग कैंप फ्री लोगों को, मेरे घर पे भी लोगों को बुला के बहुत कुछ हमने किया एंड वी हैव ट्राइड मतलब लॉट्स ऑफ थिंग। बट 2 बार यहाँ पे क्लास मतलब ट्राई किया, एक एक बंदी ने रजिस्टर किया, फिर उसका मतलब कैंसिल करना पड़ा क्योंकि सिर्फ एक बंदे के लिए मतलब क्लास नहीं हो सकती। और सेकंड टाइम में मतलब कोई तैयार ही नहीं हो रहा फ्री हीलिंग लेने के लिए। एवरीवन इज देयर, मतलब हम लोग इतना ऑक्यूपाइड थे, मी वन लेडी इज देयर, कैप्टन दिव्या वो और पीयूष भैया, हम तीनों मतलब फुल डे बैठ के हीलिंग कर रहे हैं, सब कुछ कर रहे हैं। इतने लोग आ रहे हैं, उनके इतने इमोशंस निकल रहे हैं, सब कुछ हो रहा है, बट वो कोर्स करने को तैयार नहीं है। तो इस टाइम पे मास्टर है, हमने इतनी प्रे की मास्टर से, मगर हमें दोनों बार एक भी रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं मिला, ऐसा क्यों?
यार बहुत बार क्या होता है कि यू विल हैव टू डू फ्री हीलिंग फॉर सम टाइम। खाली दो बार में करने से बहुत बार नहीं होता है बिकॉज इफ देयर इज नो थॉट फॉर्म ऑफ प्राणिक हीलिंग इन अ प्लेस इट टेक्स टाइम टू गेट द थॉट फॉर्म established. So, for example, if you do a camp in Bangalore where thought form is already established, it's going to be much easier to get students. Bangalore, Pune, Calcutta, Delhi, these places, for example, right? Chennai, very strong thought forms, which is why it is said by the teacher, I think, that you need to bless a place for a substantial amount of time, especially the trustees who have more power in them. If they continue to bless a place for a substantial amount of time, you will end up getting more response from the place. But if you don't bless that place at all, this is. I hope you're getting the thing. You have to bless the place with great invocation, with the ability to be conductive to the teachings of Master Jacob Soy, especially pranic healing. May pranic healing spread in say Mao or wherever you are staying, right? You have to bless for 6 8 months at a stretch. And not just one person, but a group of people. That's when the change starts to happen in the place. Blessing is a very powerful technique, which is why, if I remember correctly, wherever pranic healing is spread very fast, there's obviously some role of karma of the people of that state or that place, but also the fact that people started to bless a lot, like heavy duty blessings after their meditations. That specific place has been blessed tremendously. That's why the energies eventually tend to catch up. That's my personal understanding of why certain things work, why they don't work in some cases. And I'm sure you would realize that not enough blessing probably was done for Mao. This is almost a visible thing, but I'm just telling you, if you want pranic to catch in Mao, you have to really do a lot of great invocation, a lot of blessings to really bring the energy of the place up. And then you'll see people start to say, okay, here, I'll do. And it's just very easy. In fact, before any healing camp also, I remember correctly that they're asked to do the blessings for all the people that will actually come and all the people that are surrounding the healing camp. Everyone is blessed for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or like the group of people who will do the healing camp. It's and do the blue triangle. Other practices also done, but blessing is a very very important technique. Blessing is entering of the energy in people's systems. It's very very powerful technique. Let's just finish this section. Just give me a second, no? Obviously, Maharaj Ji had known how all this would happen, but instead of bringing it out with Badrinath Das himself, he let me help him. But while with one hand, Maharaj Ji played with my desire for worldly power, with the other, he subtly uprooted them. One day, while I was sitting with Maharaj Ji and KK, many CID, you know, Professor the ACP Pradyuman and Daya and whoever, right? Indian Intelligence Agency, men came to have Maharajji's darshan. They were in attendance upon Indira Gandhi, who was visiting nearby. After they left, Maharajji said, "What good is all that? A king can only order his men to obey, but a saint can order wild beasts and animals to obey, and they would do so." Between this belittlement of a worldly king, the Samarth Guru Ram Das stories, and Lincoln's appreciation of who the real president was, Bharati impressed upon me the very real limits of the worldly power that most humans seek. These teachings have continued to work upon me since that time. There was this one point of time when I was talking to somebody who wanted to join IAS, and I whenever a person says I want to be a doctor or engineer, or I don't really ask them too many questions because it makes sense. But when somebody says I want to become an IAS or an IPS, IAS means Indian Administrative Service, IPS Indian Police Service, like the government authorities where you hold certain power bestowed to you by the government, right? IAS, IPS, or things like that. Then I'm like, okay, why do you want to be an IAS or an IPS? I'm saying please be, but why do you want to be? I would love you to be that, but why do you want to be that? And the answers usually are superficial. Usually, I've never could come up with a deeper answer for this. They say, okay, I want to serve people. Okay, next question is, why do you want to serve people? I mean, I like this, I've seen, I'd like to help poor people, so and so. Okay, good. Do you think you need to be an IAS or an IPS to serve people? No great person who served society was an IAS, IPS. Opposite is quite true, by the way. Sorry. Why usually see this is I usually tend to do this asking because I do realize that most people don't understand, they don't see beyond their glamours at all. Short picture, and that's that. So, anyways, I'm not trying to say that they don't do good work. I'm just saying that join this for right reasons, deep within the heart, right reasons, and all will be set right. Most people do. This is called divide or a split in the personality. You have a different motive, but you present a different motive. It's a complete split, and this is called, the word is by Torcom used is cleavage in the personality. You are different from your deepest being. You are not the same. Soul is not as evolved or matured as you are depicting it to be. He calls it a cleavage. Very interesting word though. But yeah, let's do a closing prayer, everyone. To the Supreme God, to the great Divine Father and the great Divine Mother, thank you for your priceless blessings. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to our great spiritual teacher, to all the great spiritual teachers, to all the great gods and goddesses, to all the great, great ones. We incredibly humbly thank you for your great blessings. We thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Everyone, take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Actually, there's a study at, I think, 2 o'clock also. Join that. Yeah? Take care. Bye bye. See you. Have fun. Everyone, see you. Bye bye.